Just click go. Oh, there
Welcome to the Marketing Trench. Today, we are going to be talking about the secret to creating thumb-stopping videos. Actually, Scott came up with that title, or whoever came up with it, but it's really good. I love that idea of thumb-stopping videos. And we're featuring a friend of ours, Bob. How do you say your last name, Bob? I don't even know how to say your last name. Regneris is how I.
Well, you didn't do your research.
No.
This can be a short interview.
That's a great friend of yours you got there. You brought on there, Dustin.
Okay, so he's Scott's friend. I tried to be nice. No, Bob is a founder of a company called Feed Stories, and I actually talked to Bob and his co-founder several months ago, and Scott set up this introduction, and I think you guys are going to find this conversation to be very interesting because one of the hardest things about doing video consistently is coming up with what to say, creating the content. And we've talked about this so many times. But like having a coach for business or like having a coach in sports, sometimes it's very helpful to have a third party who's outside of you help coach you what to do, what to say, or even to see things that you can't see, to pull out of you the things that you are not able to pull out of yourself because you're too close to the action. And that's where Bob and his partner have really found a hugely successful business. And you know, I remember I had a Zoom conversation, Bob, with you back when we were talking about working together on a project that didn't end up coming together. But what I was amazed by was you actually recorded the conversation we were having. It was just a casual like Zoom hangout, talk about, hey, what we're doing, and you extracted out of it 30 seconds of something that I had said that you were like, hey, this is a really good insight about why Feed Stories and companies like Feed Stories are valuable. And I felt really great. You posted it to LinkedIn. You made me look smart. I was just listening. But you guys saw it, and you guys saw something that I never would have seen. And it was clear to me in that moment, oh, this is what a thumb-stopping video looks like. So high level, this is what we're talking about today. We're going to dive into some of the secret sauce. We're going to dive into why you guys focus so much on testimonials. And I think Scott's going to let us finally start talking about his secret skunkwork project that you guys are working on together, the mad scientists together in the lab. So we're going to get to go that way. I hope. I don't know if Scott's going to let us pull too much out of the.
We might pull back a little the corner of the curtain.
Okay. So this is all. I'm really excited about this. So first of all, Bob, whatever your last name is, welcome to the podcast. really great to have you here.
It's good to be here. Yeah.
Tell us, Bob, how did you guys get started with Feed Stories, first of all?
Well, Feed Stories was an interesting start. So my name's pronounced Regneris, so we'll start with that.
Okay, fine, whatever.
So my expertise is in paid advertising. I essentially have been involved in paid advertising since 1998. So I got started on a platform called goto.com, became overture.com, Yahoo pay-per-click, Google AdWords, and then Facebook. I started with Facebook in 2013, and I got invited to Facebook headquarters in Austin, Scott's backyard. In 2016, they had 100 of kind of their top advertisers. They invited them in for a meeting in September of that year. And a strange thing happened was they didn't talk so much about ads as they talked about video. And the vice president of the newsfeed got up and talked about how they're going to emphasize video. The vice president of Instagram got up there and talked about how they were going to change Instagram from being a picture-based application to a video application. All they talked about was video. So I went, that's interesting. I went outside at lunch. I was in the sidewalk outside of Facebook headquarters. I called up Brandon, who had worked for me. I laid him off when the economy tanked, and we kind of kept in touch. We helped each other with projects. And I said, Brandon, I've got an opportunity. I'm doing Facebook ads, and here's what I just heard. Now, Brandon is a copywriter, graphic designer, and a videographer. And I said, hey, man, like, this is what I just heard. And we basically, on the sidewalk outside of Facebook headquarters, said, we're going to start a company that emphasizes video. And we put some formality behind it early in 2017, but we have been doing video storytelling for clients now since early 2017, and we've made some really great inroads, and we'll talk about some of the different ways we do it. But that's how we started, was me just having my antennas up in a pretty cool meeting, and hearing where the platform was moving. And of course, if you spend any time in Instagram or Facebook these days, like only what you get these days is video. So they certainly they held true to their word in that aspect.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. And when you guys first started doing videos, I assume you were targeting these platforms. What sort of early lessons did you learn as you were producing videos for these platforms?
Well, the first thing we learned is we try to market the business to people on the basis of, hey, you need to do video. And guess what? It's really friggin' hard to to try to build a market.
Yeah.
Right? It's like telling somebody that you gotta eat your vegetables. Like they don't want vegetables, they want ice cream and steak. So that was one of our early lessons, was like, we got to change the message. We don't really care about people that don't want to do video. We essentially changed our market to people that want to do video. That's just a really good lesson for people. Saves you a lot of time and a lot of money. So we started marketing to people based on the fact that they've already made a decision to do video. And then it became, okay, so people can hire a videographer for $50 an hour. Like how are we different than a videographer, right? How are we different than the kid down the street with an iPhone? How are we different than your niece that has a digital camera? How are we different? Well, the reason we're different is because we understand advertising. And I came up with a concept a number of years ago called deep funnel marketing. And one of the things that I know, and you guys could probably appreciate, is so many people fail to understand the depths you need to go to convert a prospect into a customer, especially if you're in a market where you sell something that's complex or high priced. Too many people have this very thin, very narrow view of marketing. They run an ad and they expect people to sign up immediately. Well, it just doesn't work that way. You need a process, you need time. So I teach this, and I put this in my book that I wrote that's it's been out a year. The Ultimate Guide to Facebook Advertising. I talk about deep funnel marketing from the standpoint of, there's top of funnel for cold, unaware traffic. There's middle of funnel, which so many people ignore, which is where you build credibility, you nurture, you educate, you influence at that stage. And then bottom of funnel traffic, that you make hard offers and get them to convert. That might take place over a time frame of a month. It might take 3 months. I don't, it depends on your market. Certainly, if we're talking about real estate, people aren't clicking on an ad and buying a home. They're taking a lot of time, and there's a lot of steps involved. So we teach this concept, and we really can amp it up when we add video to it. Video is such a great way to connect. It's such a great way to influence. It's such a great way to build rapport. And Facebook and Instagram are just really great mediums for video, especially if you understand how to use the technology to basically show the right video at the right time to the right audience. It looks like magic. The consumer is so happy to engage with you because you are not talking over them, you're not talking beyond them, you're giving them the exact thing they need at the right time, and they'll give you the signals to let you know when it's time to move them to the next stage. So that's what that's all about.
What is it about that middle of the funnel that you think causes people to ignore spend and intentionality there?
Oh, because you're not getting immediate satisfaction, right? Now, if you're an e-commerce
instant
company,
gratification creatures.
yeah. Like if you're an e-commerce company, like, look, you're not going too deep on people. Like, it's like, here's this new gadget. You're not going to go too deep on things, right? But if you're in a service-based business where, like, what you deliver is complex and what you deliver is personal, what you deliver is expensive, like, you need to be spending money that you don't get immediate sales off of. Like, I think people understand this, but they they don't do it because it's hard. They don't do it because they don't get the immediate payoff. Like talking to like a financial professional, like, do you think somebody with $1 million portfolio is going to see an ad on a Facebook newsfeed and immediately move their portfolio from this one to this one? No way, man. Like, you're going to have to like grab this person's attention, and you're going to have to overwhelm them with your awesomeness for them to make a decision to pull their money away from this person they've had invested in for 10 years. Like, it's just not going to work that way. And by the way, there's not many people with $1 million laying around where it's not invested. So it's a big disappointment to that advisor who thinks, oh, I'm going to run some Facebook ads and get a bunch of $1 million clients. No, it doesn't work that way. You need to have this time in there where you are overwhelming them with how awesome you are and telling them stories of all the people that you've achieved greater results than they are currently getting with their current person. It goes that way with loan officers. It goes that way with real estate agents. Any type of service where you have this long-term commitment and they're trying to make a complex decision, you've got to go deep. You have got to go deep with that. And it takes investment. It takes time. But ultimately, you're going to win because your competitors aren't going to go through this effort. They're just not going to do it because they're lazy and, quite frankly, they're stupid.
Wow. Dropping the bomb there at the end.
There we go. Truth
Friday
bombs.
afternoon. Like, I'm not drinking yet, but like I feel like, yeah, why not?
So then I guess this takes us really to the next thing that I kind of teased in the opener here, which is the idea that you guys are spending, it seems to me like you spend a lot more focus talking about testimonials than I've seen from other companies that offer video services. Can you tell us a little bit about how you arrived at testimonials and why you think those in specific, beyond, I mean, the obvious is sort of like, hey, this person's amazing. Like, what is it about testimonials that you think is really great versus, let me offer a comparison perhaps to be helpful versus like just having the person create a bunch of content themselves about some win they had or some service they provide or some market insight or something like that?
Well, if you think about any service business, what is their number one source of new customers? It's referrals, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're going to say it's referrals. So knowing that, okay. Second thing is this, is that what is Amazon taught the consumer? What have they taught the public? They've taught the public that you buy things that are highly reviewed. So most people now, when they go shopping for something online, they're not looking at the product description. They scroll right down to the reviews because what they want to know is, what's this product's rating and what do other people say about it? Because the number one thing a consumer is scared to do is make a mistake, right? They are not going to part with their money, especially a large sum of money, to somebody that hasn't proven that they could do it. So the way to do that, especially in a service business, is to use testimonials. Because what are the consumers looking for? They're looking for a track record of success. They're looking for somebody that looks and sounds like them, right? Oh, that person sounds like me. That person has the same problem as me. That person lives in the same place as me. Like, that person has the same... they have the same economic status as me. They have the same family as me. Like, the more you can demonstrate the type of person that you can serve, the diversity of people you serve, and have them tell their success in their own words, the more successful you're going to be. It's really the ultimate hack, guys, is like, you can say how awesome you are, but if somebody can say how awesome you are and you don't have to say it, like, then you're really awesome. Like, there's too many people claiming like, I'm really awesome, and they have no proof.
Yeah.
Right. Like, the person who wins in any market is the one that has the most proof that they've done what they can say they can do. And again, people are driven. Like, you see people on Facebook, right? They're posting like, does anyone know a plumber? Does anyone know a good real estate agent? Does anyone know a good, right? Like, can
looking
you recommend
for recommendations?
They're looking for recommendations, right? So you need to have Google reviews. You need to have those types of reviews, but you need to have testimonials, especially if you're in a service business, because like, that's a high touch thing. People don't want to make mistakes. They don't want to be lured into a situation where they're going to regret, like, oh, I can't believe you know, I did this. They're not going to go with unproven person. So testimonials, it's like the ultimate shortcut. Like, you know, we tell people, like, if you're going to do anything with video, like, shoot 3 testimonials. Like, you're so much further ahead than other people if you can just do that. It's a winning strategy, no matter what no matter what people say.
Yeah, wow. That I was really tracking with you all the way through, but then that last comment of yours, which is if you're going to only make 3 videos, make them all testimonials. That, I mean, that really just shows how important you think they are, because most people, you know, I did this work on for a while back in 2009 to 2012, and not to the degree you guys did, but like certainly when we went and talked to people, they wanted to make an about us video, they wanted to make maybe like a diversity video, something like that. Like it was all them talking about themselves, and to your point about how great they were. And maybe they would allocate some time to, you know, one testimonial, because I mean, how many do you really need? Once somebody says something good about you was the idea, right? But you're saying, hey, your spend should mostly be in the testimonial direction.
Look, if we recommend all those videos, Dustin, as you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, we're actually working with your wife to produce a promotional video for one of their conferences, right? And like we're featuring all the people that are speaking. Like, your wife could get on there and talk about how awesome this conference is, but isn't a lot better to hear from the people that are actually going to be at the conference?
Right.
let them share it, right? So we want clients to do all kinds of video, but like if your budget's tight and you're like limited, so you want to feature those things. Now, like, for some people it's really difficult to get your clients on camera. I understand that. So the trick there is tell stories. Don't brag about your credentials. Tell client stories. I mean, this is, I don't know how much you want to pull back the curtain, Scott, but like this is.
Oh, we can pull it back as far as we want. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not hiding anything. We've never brought it up.
I mean, Scott and I are you know, a couple of the partners in findmywayhome.com. And one of the secrets that we do is that we have our experts. We have 20 some mortgage experts, and we get them all on video, and none of them are great at video, right? They're not superstars. Yeah. They're not talking, like, they're average people who are really, really good mortgage experts, but they're starting to become really good on video because we gave them a shortcut. And that is, we have a director that asks them questions about client successes they've had. So yeah, they can talk about mortgage rates, and they could talk about how they help, you know, do these complex loans, and they could say whatever they want. But what really demonstrates their ability to service is to tell stories about people they've helped. Brandon and I did a call a couple days ago, and we showed a video from one of our experts, David Zai. And David did a really good job of talking about a specific veteran that he helped who was only qualified for a $100,000 loan. David was able to help him get into a $500,000 home, and gave so much detail that if any veteran was watching that video and had a family and was driven to like not settle for this crappy condo but get his family into a house, they would absolutely break the door down to work with David, because David told a very specific story about a veteran who was driven and had a couple credit problems. And David said, hey, we got those things fixed. We cleaned that up. We worked with the VA, and we got him into his house that was a $500,000 house. Like, what veteran wouldn't like forget everything else and just choose to work with David if they lived in the state of Virginia? Like, David didn't talk about how great he was, but he talked about how he helped that person and gave really specific details that just absolutely was a slam dunk. It was a 2-minute video. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, right?
Yeah, and to unpack that a little bit, and we do kind of talk about this a little bit. I mean, the whole reason that I partnered up with Bob, well, there was a couple of reasons. One of them was sort of the remote production capabilities that they have. So what we're doing with the experts is they actually have a professional director on the phone or on an iPad and we're having a conversation with them and doing all of the production in the back end. So we're pulling the story out of them and piecing it together. But really the important part, and this is the thing where I keep feeling like I'm beating the dead horse, is your consumer is online. And this consumer, this veteran, was online. He talked to an online lender. The lender told him $100,000 was the maximum he could qualify for. That that consumer most likely went back online to say, how can I qualify for more? Now, if David's telling stories about a veteran that only qualified for 100,000, but now he worked with him and he qualifies for 500,000, that is going to be a high trust conversation when that consumer encounters that content on a Google search or on a YouTube search. That is going to be a very high trust conversation. And what do you think that's going to do for the repeat and referral business that's going to come from that? Because he pulled them from the depths of uneducated, stupid loan officer hell, and he put him into a position where, hey, I'm an expert. Let me explain this to you. Let me explain how we help this customer. David doesn't have to say he's amazing. David exhibited that he was amazing by telling a story about a family that he helped achieve their goal and achieve their dream. And that's the you talk about why people don't do deep funnel, because like Ricardo said, we're in an instant gratification world. That's what Google has taught us. We have an attention span of a gnat, and they want instant gratification. And advertisers and unfortunately vendors prey on our communities, and they say that you can put in a quarter and get out a gumball. And that gumball is a $2 Facebook lead ad, because you promise that if they click on this ad and give you their information, you can see the rest of the pictures of this gorgeous house, right? That's the lure. And then there's no relationship there. There's nothing else that's created there. So that's what I also wanted to kind of touch on, Bob, because the absolute hardest thing to do, because I've tried to do this and I have a handful of these, but the quality is super crazy and inconsistent. It is so hard to get video testimonials from past clients.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you actually, I guess it's a subsidiary of Feed Stories, or you and Brandon actually started another company called testimonials.live, right?
Yeah.
I've shared this a bunch on my Facebook and on the videos that I do, because I think it's super powerful. But you leverage this remote production technology, and why don't you explain a little bit how that came about? Because I thought that was just an absolutely brilliant solution to a problem that most people don't know that they have, but they have it, and it's a big one.
Well, there's a couple things that we really rely on. Number one is we don't do a lot of like what we would call commercials, where it's professional actors and multiple settings. Like if you went to our website, you notice it's like talking head video with really good production quality. And so none of the people that we put on camera are professional actors. And that's the first thing, is like we're not hiring spokespeople to talk about your business, number one. The second thing is we think scripts suck. And the reason is unless you're an actor or a newscaster, you're not going to be any good reading a script. And if any of you have tried to do a video where you're reading off a script, you know how
we know
like
it.
It's just terrible.
I think Scott is awesome.
Right?
He's the best, better. He's the best.
It is so hard to read off a script and sound natural and sound authentic.
Yeah, it is.
So we have this process that we started where it's very simple. It's mimicking almost what you see on like 60 Minutes, is that there's an interviewer. Now, very infrequently do we put the interview on camera. 90% of what we do is it's the subject. And we just believe in this director interviewer asking questions. So we do question and answer with our subjects. And so most of us who are in business have these conversations all day long, right? So it mimics as if we're on the phone or on a Zoom with somebody and we're just having this conversation. And so with the beauty, of course, of editing, like we can ask questions a different way. We could give feedback to the person, right? So if you say something and it doesn't sound quite right, our director will jump in and say, hey, could you like look at the camera different, or could you like give that more energy, or could you clarify that? We have that power of editing to do that. But we really believe the best video, the most authentic video, is when you are conversing with your audience. True marketing, like if you really understand marketing, it's a conversation with your audience. So we kind of take that to the next level where we have a conversation with you so you can have a conversation with your audience. Now, what that does is it allows people who are completely unprofessional and unpolished get on video and make it look really, really good. Okay. So yeah, we're able to interview your clients or your customers, and we make it really easy. We ship them out a iPad, a tripod, a light, a microphone, everything you need to have this like mini video studio. And by the way, when we had this idea in late 2017, we were a little bit like pioneers, like who the heck wants to do video like over the internet, right? So we have this process built. It's completely slick, and when we get down to it, nobody really wants to do it. And then all of a sudden, this thing called coronavirus hits, and guess what? We exploded because we had the ability to do remote video. So we were like really well timed in having the ability to do this. Now, about 70-80% of all that we do is remote. Now the cool thing is it's completely like high def, right? You can't tell it's filmed remotely. You can't even tell it's like there's nobody in the room with them because of the way the technology works. So what it allows us to do is send it to somebody who's a complete amateur at video. We have somebody that walks them through setting up the equipment, and then a director comes on and interviews them and asks them 3, 4, 5 questions. And inside of an hour, like they give their interview and they're done. And we even have a process where we can ship them the equipment and they could put it back in the box and ship it right back to us. It's a really cool process. So it allows us to do professional videos. Now, this is not like some of the services where like somebody gets on the internet and they go, I think working with Scott is just great. He took care of me. I definitely work with him again. And like they're like, I really like working with Scott. It's like not framed properly. The light, like they're like my bald head is showing, or they have the sun behind them and they're like completely hidden. This is professionally done video that has a consistent look and feel. It looks good, it sounds good, and it has a consistency. So it's not cheap. Like it's not going to cost you $20 to get one of those videos done. It's going to cost a little bit more than that, but you're getting a consistent quality. So what does it actually buy you to have a half dozen well done, professionally done testimonials with real people on camera, sitting in their home, sitting outside, wherever the best staging is, and talking at depth about how you help them. Part of getting a good testimonial is asking really good questions and asking specific questions where you talk about results. You talk about what was your life like before? What does your life look like now? What would you say to somebody who is on the fence about, those are just some of the things we'll ask, and it'll produce really good, consistent, deep testimonials. Those are the ones that help you sell.
Yeah, and I want to take a moment real quick, Scott, and just talk to the me that's listening out in the audience, okay? I started doing video and audio back in 2002. I was in film school at that point. We were running around with a Canon camera, big old shoulder mounted, whatever. And then when I jumped into video and real estate in 2009, 2010, you know, we were using the high-end DSLRs. We eventually got the $25,000 RED camera. And so in my brain, when I think about what it takes to have a well-lit, well-produced video, I think of expensive light kits. I think of lighting. I think of high-end mics. I think of, you know, tens of thousands of dollars of camera equipment. And I'm tempted to also think that when I hear somebody like Bob say, yeah, you know, we send out an iPad and some things that an amateur can set up, I'm like, no way, bro, because I've done this and I know what it takes to actually get something that looks good. And then I saw it for myself. I saw what Bob and his team did. I see what they've done for me. I see, you know, what they're working on for my wife. And really what I saw what they did for Scott. And I was blown away because I thought there's just no possible way to get this kind of quality out of the equipment that they send you, but it totally works and it's insane. And you need to see it to believe it. And you need to understand that technology in especially the broadcast space has just exponentially dropped in price and exponentially increased in quality, right? Even like this studio that we're recording out of. If I had tried to set this up, in fact, I did try and set this up, you know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it would have cost a lot more than what it cost us now. I think this whole like setup here is like, I don't know, $2,000. And look at it. I mean, and people are making millions of dollars off of $5,000 or less setup. So the world has changed, guys. And you got to see this stuff to believe it. But Scott, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, no. So I threw up the YouTube channel where we post all of this stuff from the experts so that you can see that. But I mean, what you don't, I mean, I guess you do realize, but Dustin, this is $1,000 camera. Yeah. This is actually, it's a lot more than $1,000 for an iPhone, right?
Yeah.
And really the quality of the camera also has a lot to do with the bandwidth, what you're watching it on. Most people are watching it on a mobile device. Right. So it doesn't have to be 8K Ultra HD super realistic. You want 1080p on a small on a small thing. And what you're paying for when you use somebody, when you use a professional service, is their eye and their experience. So they know how to position the angle. They know how to we're mostly doing off camera. So you're speaking off camera. You're not staring into the camera like a deer in headlights. You're speaking off camera. You put a picture of your mom on the lamppost next to your computer and you explain to your mom what you're trying to explain to everybody that's watching you. And then, you know, they throw some B-roll in there, which is the little jump cuts with the moving images that are related to it. So we're able to produce what looks like a studio quality production, and we're not going for studio quality. We're just going for good. We're going for engaging. We're going for thumb stopping, and we're going to keep their attention just long enough. And we're leveraging best practices from the film production industry, which is jump cuts, quick moving, some soft music in the background potentially, and keeping the story going. And that's really what you're getting when you're using a service like that. And that was really what, you know, all your content doesn't have to be that kind of content, but when you have that type of content mixed in with I'm a regular person, here's my iPhone, here's a thought that I just had, or here's a conversation I just had with a client, I think it just makes you more real. It makes you more relatable. It makes you more real. And I think it just rounds out the entire experience that allows the consumer to make an informed decision about whether you're somebody that they want to work with or not.
Really quickly, I just want to say for those who are listening to this and can't see the little scroll at the bottom, the website is youtube.com/findmywayhome, youtube.com/findmywayhome. And that's where you can find the videos that Scott just referenced.
Yeah, you kind of said it there, Scott. Half the world, probably more, is walking around with a more powerful video camera in their pocket than what Dustin set up in 2002.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. Now I think I still have an iPhone X, and it's a 4K camera. And Scott, the other you mentioned two things that are real critical. Number one is because where people watch the video and it's online, it doesn't need to be 4K. In fact, it's wasteful to do 4K. 1080p HD is the level that we produce at, because it doesn't buy you any more credibility. It actually degrades from the video if you try to do ultra high def. Okay, so
Law of diminishing returns, right?
it's diminishing returns. You're not getting any benefit. Like if you're watching like NFL games and NBA games, they have that 8K camera now. It's actually disorientating for people to see when they have the gimbal with the 8K. Like it's almost too real. It's like it looks like a video game, right? It's distracting. But that it's really key to understand that because of the way people watch it on their mobile phones, it just has to be HD. It doesn't have to be ultra HD. So that's another key. But the other thing is Brandon Boyd, my business partner, who co-founded this with me, says this a lot, that overproduction leads to mistrust, because what it signals to the consumers is that, hey, we're trying to pull something over on you, right? We know, your customers know that you're not a big brand, right? There's a lot of distrust with some big brands. What they're looking for is authenticity, all right? And you have a level of professionalism in your video that doesn't distract them from your message. So if the sound sucks, then you have a problem. Like the number one thing you want to have on your video is good sound. That's key. Okay. The other thing is you want to just make sure it's lit properly so it's not distracting. Those are just very simple things. And by the way, to have your studio at home outside of the iPhone and iPad, which most people have, it's like $90 of equipment, right? It's like it's costs nothing. Like you have a simple light, a simple tripod, a simple mic. It's $90 to have this, and all you have to do is supply an iPhone or an iPad. Like it's that easy. But you want to have the consistent look, so that there's a like a standard of professionalism in what you're doing. It lets the consumer know you're serious. But when you start to have overproduced stuff, it starts to diminish trust. So there's this balance that we try to strike with not having really high polished stuff, but also making sure that we have this level of quality that doesn't distract them from the content. The other thing that we're seeing, and this is really interesting, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts, is the whole idea of long form versus short form content. Now, Scott made a statement that, yeah, people's attention spans are really low now, but contrast that with somebody who's in research mode. Now, Scott, you listen to Joe Rogan. How long is his podcast?
3.5 hours.
Right?
Kind of usually.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And you listen to that, right? People binge watch shows on Netflix and Amazon Prime. They'll sit down and watch 12 hours straight. So it's not that people's attention spans are short. It's that their attention spans are short for something where they're just sampling. So part of deep funnel is that when you're top of funnel, your only job is to get awareness. You're just trying to capture their attention and move them and get a signal from them that they're willing to go deeper with you. Now, we've got videos on Find My Way Home that are 8 minutes long, 30 minutes long, and you'd be astonished at the stats on those. When somebody's doing research and you've got really deep content, they are going to watch 30-minute videos or 60-minute videos because they are engaged with you and you are teaching them, you're inspiring them. Like you want to use shorter stuff to get their attention, but as you draw them in, you're going to have deeper and more expansive type content, and that's what's going to draw them in and build that trust and rapport.
The one example of this that really kind of blew my mind, because I didn't realize that this was even possible, but it was 2016. The guidelines around qualifying for a mortgage with student loans had just changed a year earlier. There was a lot of confusion in the marketplace. I was going to do an interview with another loan officer expert She couldn't get online because of technology problems. So I ended up rambling on for 29 minutes, a talking head video about these student loan guidelines with just a talking head. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. I'm going to throw some money at it and advertise it on YouTube. So I targeted people that have student loans that were in housing, demographics. And with 116, so this was over probably 60 days, 116,000 views, 24% of the people watched all 29 minutes of me on a webcam, just freeform rambling off about all of these guideline changes. So you're so incredibly right. Long form content is what consumers want to consume if they're interested in the topic. And nobody thinks about that. Everybody thinks about tricking them into pushing the button. But what you really want to do is in that instant, you want to earn enough of their trust so that they'll invest time to consume more of your long form content. And quite frankly, there's got to be, on some sort of scale, for every second or every minute that they watch, an exponential increase in the trust in your product or service or person. And it's probably Pareto, right? It's probably first couple of minutes, and then it's the trust spikes probably at 2 or 3 minutes in, and then you've got them hooked. And I think that's really kind of what we wanted to talk about today. It's one of the more important things that we wanted to talk about today. And it's where I would like people's head to be when they're thinking about creating content online and even creating advertisements around that.
Let me bring out an out of industry real world example. So people often talk about how Tesla does not run advertising, right? And that's crazy, by the way, because the ad world has long been powered by the big automakers. I mean, I have a friend who works in Detroit for a big ad agency, and there are multiple big ad agencies in Detroit because the auto industry is such a huge client for the major ad industries that they want to be right there down the street from where the headquarters are, right? And here's Tesla, and they don't have any ad spend at all, but their cars sell like crazy. And one thing people attribute that to is, well, it's Elon Musk and he's got whatever, or it's electric cars, they sell themselves. But a lot of electric cars have come and gone and they've failed. If you go on YouTube, you will see endless testimonials from people who own Teslas, people who just review Teslas. And I know this because I have watched many, 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 many of them. And I am the guy, Bob. I'm the guy in research mode. I'm the guy looking at the Model Y and wanting to buy one, have a reservation, and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, do I really want to close the deal on this Model Y? And I have watched so many videos. And I'll tell you what, here's the thing. A lot of these guys are saying the same thing in their videos, right? But I watched the whole thing because maybe one guy, like yesterday, one guy was doing an in-depth comparison between the 2020 and the 2021 Model Ys. And he's like, hey, look, the leather stitching on the side panel exists on the 2021, but on my 2020, it's just plastic. And I'm like, ooh, it's so stupid. But I want to know, what are all the advantages? And so I watch these 20, 30, 45-minute videos all the way through. And those things are selling Teslas like crazy. And that it's working because these guys have promo codes for supercharger stuff, and they're making money. And one guy I watch, who always makes a weekly Tesla video, he now has a Model 3 Plaid, right, which is a $100,000 car, and this is all he does is make these videos. People are watching this stuff, they're consuming it, and it is driving. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Tesla just released their profit, their quarterly profits, and they paid off something like $2 billion in debt, and they were still profitable to the tune of billions of dollars, right? So they're just doing insanely well. And, imagine if you had a product so compelling that your customers were out there making their own testimonial videos, because at the end of the day, that's all these are. And we see the power of it on the most crazy end of the spectrum. And Bob, this is what you and your team specialize in, is drawing out these stories, drawing out that passion that people who are in research mode can find. And you and Scott, I would love to talk a little bit more about what you and Scott are specifically offering to lenders? Like what is this package, and what can lenders, if lenders are, getting excited about this conversation we're having, what does it look like for them to work with you guys?
I want to highlight something you said, Dustin, that's really key. Is in order to get, there's a lot of businesses that'll come to us and say they're having trouble getting testimonials, and when you look under the hood, it's kind of empty, right? What you said there is that Tesla has a product and experience so elegant that users can't help themselves but to go on and create video content. You want to be delivering such good service to your clients that they can't help, they actually ask you to give a testimonial. Like, that's the type of mindset you want to be in. So if you are trying to get testimonials and it's literally like pulling teeth, then there might be something wrong with your service delivery. And so that's something we can't fix, right? You're going to get a really shallow testimonial if you're delivering a service that's shallow. Like, when you're wowing your customers, the stories really tell themselves, and you're going to have to actually create limits in terms of testimonials, because we're doing work with a coach now for financial advisors, and then I'll pass it off to Scott. And he put out a request to his list, and we got a dozen people that immediately signed up. That tells me something about that person, is that within hours after him sending out an email, that a dozen people like literally jumped to the front of the line and said, yeah, I want to give a testimonial for, his name happens to be Scott. Like, I want to give a testimonial for Scott because my life has been changed because of him. Like, that's the type of reaction you're going for. And when we talk about Find My Way Home, what our experts in the network now are the type of providers where they're working with consumers who have been kicked around by the system. They call mortgage companies, they don't get calls back. They're made promises that are empty. They've been told no. They've been made promises too that they don't keep. Like, our experts are so different from everybody else because they actually answer consumers' questions. Now, that should be the minimum requirement for a loan officer, in our opinion, right, Scott? But they really take it to the next level. So I'd love for you to, talk about the types of people that we have in our network now and that we're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think there are a ton of these loan officers that care more about consumers than they do about commissions. They know that revenue is a trailing indicator for providing a super high, excellent level of service, because ultimately that's all we do. We are tour guides on the greatest adventure that most families will ever go on. And that's all we do, is we make them feel safe. We make sure that their questions are answered, and we give them, and we help identify problems before they come up. We help them ask the questions that they don't know that they should be asking. And there's a lot of us out there, but it's hard for us to compete against push button get mortgage, which is just a complete lie that consumers go into these black holes. And whether it's whether it's push button get mortgage or any lead generation company that's literally spending billions of dollars a year to convince consumers that in order to apply for a mortgage, you fill out a form on the internet, and then you go into some black hole and it's distributed to some call center somewhere, to somebody that doesn't care as much as what we do, as much as most of us do. Anybody that's probably watching this that knows me or knows any of us know how passionate we are, and we're a family, but we don't always have the time and the resources to be able to produce this type of content to get these stories out there. And that's ultimately what we're looking for. I mean, right now, what we're offering is I would go ahead and call it the Tesla of content creation. It's completely done for you. It's not an inexpensive proposition, but it's a very, very effective, very, very consistent way for mortgage experts in literally an hour a month to turn on the iPad and have a conversation with a director and tell 3 to 4 stories about consumers that you've helped, or problems you see coming around the corner, or somebody you couldn't help because another loan officer gave them bad advice and put them in a position where now they can't buy right now. We have these stories all day long. One of the things that I love to say is, if you don't know what to write about, or if you don't know what to create content about, check the sent folder of your email box, because you're answering questions from consumers and prospects all day long. Their question is the topic and your answer is the video. So we launched this earlier this year. I think it was May 26th, I think, is when we really kind of launched it. We're still getting a lot of the bugs out. Okay, here we go. Yeah, no, Feed Stories is different than what we're talking about right now. Right now, we're talking about a service that we created that Bob and I are partners, and we have other partners in findmywayhome.com. And right now, that's primarily for loan officers. What Bob's company, Feed Stories and Testimonials.live, is for any industry do anything.
I want to quickly clarify. Scott's responding to a question that's just popped up live. Our Feed Story service is pertinent and usable by individual real estate agents. I hear most of the references being made to loan officers. Yeah, and that's right. So,
yeah, we have dentists, we have coaches, we have e-commerce companies, SaaS companies. If you check out our site, you'll see a diverse range of professionals on there. So
yeah, I mean, my wife's company, we talked about it earlier. She's a lawyer, right? So he's working with the law firm over there.
Yeah.
And essentially, how I met Bob is I went to a workshop that he did where he was teaching his deep funnels concept. And I've been blogging and doing long form content for over a decade. And I was dabbling in Facebook, and he was doing a Facebook ads, a deep content workshop on Facebook ads. And it was what did I say, Bob? Like in the first 30 minutes, I think I pronounced that I had more than gotten my money's worth in the first 30 minutes, because as soon as he laid out the concept, and really it's that long game concept of having the patience to produce quality information out there. And it may not be a quantity play, but it's a quality play. And that quality is, you can leverage that quality. You're going to get more testimonials from those consumers. You're going to get more referrals from those consumers, and you're going to have their repeat business for life. And it's a little bit different mindset, but I knew these were my people. I knew that this was somebody that cared about the experience and was willing to make the investment in the experience for the benefit of the consumer on the other side of that. And at the end of the day, I think that if you can have that mindset in this business, both real estate and mortgage, if you can have that mindset, then you're not in a position where every single day you're looking for the next deal. While you're looking for the next deal, if you're taking the time to produce this content and put this out there, the way I like to describe it is, every time you produce content, you're cloning yourself. And every one of those clones is out there talking about what you do and what you're an expert at 24/7. The more of those, if you get an army of those clones out there, you're laying out your long game, and you're going to start getting that business that's coming in. That's going to build that super strong, I call it the ultimate referral machine, really, because the more of those lines you put out in the water, they're perpetually out there selling on your behalf, and they're selling by educating consumers and answering the questions that they're asking online while you're in Tahiti drinking a Mai Tai.
Well, and our experts, I'm sure they do go on vacation, but like they all work very hard, and
absolutely.
They serve people. So what I like about that, Scott, is a lot of what you're teaching loan officers and real estate agents is to not be reliant on other people, like having to buy leads, and like it's just so soul sucking to be so reliant on other systems. What we want any expert to do, whether in the mortgage industry or any other industry, is to stand above it. Like if you're out there putting out content and you're positioned as an authority, every piece you publish just adds to your credibility, and that's what consumers are looking for. They are looking for authenticity. They are looking for experts. They're not necessarily price shopping, and I think most of the people who are watching this video aren't interested in price shoppers anyway. We want to work with people that are like they want experts. They have a big problem they want to get solved, and you're the type of person that could help them. So you're doing them a disservice by not publishing.
And Dustin, unfortunately, the curtain is closed. That's all you get to see this time.
All we get to see. But if you're interested, keep your eye out. If you're a mortgage professional, keep your eye out at findmywayhome.com. See what they're doing. See when they start really rolling this thing out. It's I've gotten
absolutely reach out to me. I'm not hard to find.
Yeah,
absolutely reach out to me. We'll have a conversation.
I've gotten to see behind this curtain even more, and I got to tell you, I'm just blown away by how dialed in this system is and their vision and their plan. If I were to go into the mortgage business today, and I wanted to get a running start on building my credibility and building my book of business, I would absolutely have budgeted in my monthly plan a marketing spend for findmywayhome.com. And if I were already in the business, especially 5 years plus, it would just be an indispensable resource. It would be the next level, rocket ship to take me to the moon. It really would. So check them out. If you are not in the mortgage industry, check out feedstories.com and testimonialslive.com, where you can start building up your own video library, start building up your expertise online, building that credibility, working on that middle kind of section of the funnel that Bob talked about earlier that is so important and is very neglected. And just understand, like with the Tesla example I gave above, there are a lot of people who are talking probably about a lot of the same stuff you're going to talk about, but there's something about you that attracts people like you. And there are a whole lot of people on the internet looking for somebody like you. So just because it exists by somebody else doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it too. And frankly, if you've got Bob and his team, you're probably going to do it better. So check them out, feedstories.com, testimonialslive.com. And then if you are looking for something to put you to sleep at night, ricardobueno.com. I always blow up Ricardo at the end. No, but if you're looking for
awesome.
even more insights into the real estate industry, ricardobueno.com with his authority newsletter comes out every week. He's always interviewing interesting people. Go subscribe to that. Go watch his videos. Go subscribe to his podcast. It's all good stuff. ricardobueno.com is where you can find him. And if you happen to be doing a home sale or refinance in California, my team at Lighthouse Escrow, lighthouseescrow.com would love to work with you. Finally, if you're listening to this on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get that vanity URL at youtube.com/marketing trench. And we get that when we get to 100 subscribers. We're close. So help us get there. If you're listening, please subscribe. That's it. Bob, thanks so much for coming on. Until next time, this has been the Marketing Trench.
Yeah.